All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Shells and Shadows podcast. Today, I'm here with James Vincent, author of the book Time at the Edge. James, thank you so much for coming in today. Part of what I hope to accomplish through this podcast is to bring people on, like I share with you, to share stories of how they've taken painful moments in life that could lead to why me mentality, victimhood, but have actually used it as a great source of strength and are now helping others do the same. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And I just want James Vincent is my pen name. That's what I write my books under. Vincent is my middle name. So my full name's James Vincent Miragliotta.
Okay.
Nice Irish name. So yeah.
Boston Irish name, huh?
Yeah, no, a little Sicilian, but yeah. So a lot of time in the north end of Boston.
I'd love to jump right into your story.
Sure.
So you're now a spiritual advisor, a life coach, a motivational speaker, but that's not how your story began. You had a breaking moment of breaking open in a way, a dissolving of the ego that put you on this path. So why don't we start from the beginning, from who you were before you became the author, James Vincent?
Sure. I'll give you the book jacket version.
Cool.
Yeah, I grew up in a very Italian family in Massachusetts. Grandfather owned a lumber yard. My dad became a lawyer by fighting in World War II. His parents were immigrants. So grew up in a big family, 13 grandkids. So there was a lot of competition. You learn to move fast and be aggressive at the table, or you didn't eat. And I was real fortunate during life. I was lucky as a kid to get a scholarship. I grew up in a immigrant mill city, Lawrence, Massachusetts. I think the only thing that the world would know about Lawrence is for 3 years running, it was the car theft capital of the world. So it wasn't all roses, but we lived out in the country, outside the city. And I got a scholarship to go to Brooks School, which is a private school, which was a whole nother world for me. So I went from kids whose parents were working in the mills and to going to school with kids of the Rockefellers, the Mellons, movie star kids. So it was a whole nother world for me, and learned to operate in a different world. From there, I went to college. A couple of moves there. I got injured playing basketball, so I went to Gettysburg College for the rest of my career. From there, I was lucky during college to get a scholarship to go to Spain. Met some people playing basketball there, got an offer to play some basketball, which I did for about a year and a half after college. Played basketball in Europe, which was amazing, and Spain and Italy. Opened the world up to me. Came back, did marketing in the early days of high tech. We did some trade shows for IBM back when literally the personal computer was the size of a small vehicle, Volkswagen type size. And then I went to law school. Follow my father's footstep. He said, "Go now or don't ever go." So I decided to go and try it. And then my life just started moving real quick. Got married 3 weeks before law school, started law school. First year, if people don't know, law school is just really scary. First year, they scare you to death. You're learning a new language. It's just pretty tough. And we got to the time of studying for exams, and my dad had a stroke, literally a couple of weeks before exams. I remember being at the hospital, and literally the only words he can get out of his mouth were "hurry." So I had no pressure. First year of law school, getting into the pressure situation and learning to deal with that. So I effectively, right after my first year in law school, took over the business side of the practice.
So this was a turning point for you in your life. Up until then, it seems like you had a very wonderful and simple life.
Yes,
compared to this taking over of your dad's entire mission.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it was simple, but competition was part of everything. Playing sports, going to a private school that was way above my punching range.
Yeah,
and learning to survive in a new area, and then going to law school and then having to take over a practice when most people were having a summer vacation. I was learning how to run the back end of a law firm. And then the practice was amazing. While I was practicing law, I freely admit I was the luckiest person in the early part of my life that you could imagine. Took over a law firm. At that point, literally a couple of years after that, I got elected to a public office. I was one of the youngest elected officials in Massachusetts. I became, a year after that, literally just within 4 years of graduating from law school, I was the local bar president.
How old were you at this point?
Literally, that was in my 30s.
Wow, yeah.
So yeah, I was literally in my 30s. By the time I hit closer to late 30s, 40s, I owned a commercial building. I had expanded a one city law firm into 8 offices in 3 states, in 2 countries. I had an office in Mexico City with an old dear friend of mine that had studied in Boston. And life was amazing. During that period of time, I co-founded 2 technology companies. That's when it was the Wild West. So we had 2 companies. I sat on the board of a biotech company. It seemed like there was opportunity all around. And at that point of my life, unwisely, I thought I was invincible, thought nothing could happen. I was living life large. By the time I was late 30s, early 40s, we were spending, weeks in Italy on vacation. And I just never thought it would stop. But like anything, it does stop.
So that point where it stopped, you were living on this high almost, and then God, the universe, knocked you off from that place, and your life changed forever. Let's get into the experience that led you into writing this book.
Sure. Well, that was my second gut check. First one was while I was practicing law. Literally within a period of less than a year, my dad died. My wife at the time, my first wife, had cancer. And my partner, who's a lifelong friend in Mexico City, was kidnapped and killed, leaving 7 small children. And at that point, just the bottom fell out. Sort of lost all direction in life, health problems. My blood pressure was out of this world. And at that point, the doctors at the Mass General told me, you have 2 choices. You can do what you're doing. We give you about 6 months and you're going to have a massive heart attack, or you can change your life. So at that point, that's what I did. Moved down to North Carolina and started consulting, and left the law. And eventually that led me down to Florida. And in Florida, I was doing international project development, finance, a new world, but it was so exciting to me. And I felt that I was back at that point, and did a lot of relief work in Haiti at that time. So there was that feel good. In my whole life, I had given. I was on boards, but I never really knew who I was helping. I gave money. It was sort of, to me in my mind, that was my pay. It was like I was a Sunday Christian. I'd go to church every once in a while. Growing up as a Catholic, you get to go to confession and wipes away all your sins, and you get to start fresh. So I'm at this point. I'm in Florida. My first marriage had ended after 23 years, amicably. We still are in good terms. And out of the blue, I was in a cigar bar with some clients, and a woman walked in. It was one of those, to me, those Hollywood moments. And she was an actress, a former actress, movies. She had done movies with Robin Williams, Patrick Swayze. So she had done some decent movies at the time. She was a designer, and it was a whirlwind. So I met her literally right after our first date. Basically, we were together from that point on. And there was a 12-year odyssey. First 2 years of our marriage were amazing, literally made for Hollywood. And then again, the universe or God came knocking. And that's the moment I found out my wife was paranoid schizophrenic. And she had a major episode at that point, the first of many. And that led to 12 years of being a caregiver, and learning the hard way about mental illness, and living with a severe mental illness like schizophrenia.
But that was a choice for you, right? Discovering this about her and deciding that this is someone you care about and you're going to help take care of her in this state.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I'm a big believer. Even in my first marriage, it lasted 23 years. We waited for my daughter to to get through school. So my character is not to give up.
Yeah.
I stick with things. So I made a commitment, and for 12 years, it was. There were periods during the 12 years she'd disappear for a year. Literally, I'd wake up and she was gone from the house. Had to live through the hallucinations, the paranoia, literally driving down the street on the highway and her opening the door and trying to jump out.
Wow.
And that just became normal life. So near the end of the 12 years, as is with paranoia, when people get older, it gets worse and worse. So the episodes went from every 2 years to every 1 year to every 6 months to every couple of months. And that which led me to change my life, learn how to work remotely. I think I worked remotely before it was fashionable, just because that's what I had to do as a caregiver, and which led me to March 30th of 2023. At that point, my wife was in pretty bad shape. The hallucinations were almost constant. She'd have a few good weeks and then back to hallucinations. At that point, I had set her up in her own room in the house, and just for my own safety, got into the habit of locking the door at night. If I heard her, she asked for something, I was always there. But it was just this practicality. On the 30th that night, I forgot to lock the door. It was probably the first time in a year that I had forgot to lock my bedroom door. And around 3 o'clock in the morning, I thought I was dreaming at first. I sensed someone around me. I could sort of hear some ruffling in that REM sleep of half awake, half open. And the next thing I knew, my wife was on top of me, had plunged a 16-inch chef's knife into my torso. And at that point, all images you have of death and what you do in a situation, time sort of stopped in that moment. My senses were incredibly heightened. Even though I had this knife in me, it was like I was outside my body. And in that moment, she fled as soon as it happened. I was now fully awake, obviously, after being stabbed. And my first reaction, it was just, without even thinking, was to pull the knife out, which I did. And I can never forget the sound. It literally was the sound of something coming out of styrofoam or going into styrofoam. And at that moment, I heard the front door close, the screen door close. And my adrenaline was going. I had no idea really, or wasn't thinking at that moment of the seriousness of my injuries. Later, I would learn that practically every organ other than my heart was lacerated.
It was more than one time. She stabbed you more than one time.
Yeah, it actually went down my torso. So it was more of a in and travel down type thing.
Wow. And I just want to pause here at this point and say that in these sorts of stories where we hear about miracles that happened, there's usually a series of decisions or circumstances that could have gone wrong, but happened to go right in the right order to lead to you having this conversation today.
Yeah.
What was that first right decision you made at that point?
It was amazing. I remember it to this day very vividly. As soon as I heard the door slam, my caregiver instincts just kicked in. I grabbed a towel, put it against my chest, not realizing the severity of the injuries, and followed her out. That was just my reaction to make sure she was okay, safe. And I remember sitting in the driveway and my heart started pounding. Literally, it felt like it was pounding outside my body. It was pounding so hard. And in that moment was the first moment I realized that you're dying. It's that serious. So I made my way back in the house, got my glasses, my phone, called 911. And it seemed like it was, I remember I got my wallet also because, you think your life flashes before you as you're dying. I was thinking, okay, I need my wallet because if I go to the hospital, they're going to need that. I don't want her to come back in the house and take it. And then I don't have any, the weird things that go through your mind. And it seemed like seconds, but I was slouched in the foyer. And within seconds, the police were there. They were amazing. And I remember when they came in, there were 3 of them, and there was 2 men and a woman. And this young girl, the police officer, they were all awesome, but she looked at me and immediately got sick, got ill. And I didn't realize it, but in talking to them later, they said that when they walked in the house, it was like a scene out of a movie. There was just blood everywhere. Mm-hmm. They were sure that I was dead, and they came up to me, and I was, I immediately sort of revived, started talking to them, told them what happened. And within seconds, the EMTs were there, whisked me out into the ambulance, down the street to a parking lot where a helicopter was waiting. And that was sort of the first universe moment or God moment, whatever you believe in. Took them 3 tries to get me into the helicopter, and I'm 6'4", and anybody that ever goes through this, 6'2" is really the longest you're supposed to be to get into a helicopter on a gurney, but they made it work. And I sort of, at that moment, they had a choice. I was in Port Charlotte, which is pretty much midway between Tampa and Fort Myers, a little closer to Fort Myers. And the major trauma center was in Tampa. There was a smaller trauma center in Fort Myers. Because of the severity of my injuries, they had quickly decided we're going to go to Tampa, which was a little longer. It was probably about a 5-6 minute longer flight. As soon as the helicopter took off, out of nowhere, they said the wind just picked up from the north. And in a split second, they decided we have to go south just because of this freak wind. When I landed, I actually bled out as we got to the hospital in Fort Myers. I was revived right away. The hospital staff was right there to meet the helicopter. And they had told me that I had a 2-minute window at that point. If I had gone north, that 6-minute flight, I never would have been revived.
Mm-hmm. And if it weren't for the wind, you would have gone north.
Yeah, so that was that first moment. And I was actually in a coma for 2 days. 3 operations during that time. I had gone in and out. I was intubated. They had to use the paddles a couple times. I was literally on that border going in and out of life and death. I woke up after the 2 days, on the 3rd day. So those people that are religious, it's not lost on me that I rose on the 3rd day. Mm-hmm. Whether it was coincidence or not. And I rose to the sound of the doctor's voice at that point, telling my daughter that to be prepared, I'd spend the rest of my life in a nursing home, not to expect me to be able to talk, to be able to walk, to be able to function normally, take care of myself. And during those 2 days, I had what's known as a NDE, a near-death experience. And to me, I traveled to the edge of what I believe is heaven. My personal belief is you don't go to heaven till you actually pass. And I was in that middle ground. And while I was there, it was one of those situations I saw, but not with my eyes. I heard, but not with my ears. I saw everything in colors that I can't even describe. It was like looking at a million colors. Best I could describe is somewhat like a Monet painting. And
this is what inspired the book.
That's what inspired my book, Time at the Edge.
Yeah.
That period. And it was amazing there. I could hear. I had experience of interacting with my father, my late father, and my late father-in-law up there. And it was one of those things. They were speaking a million languages at once, but I understood because my mind wasn't processing. I could literally feel life around me, the water, the life around me, animals, people, without seeing them. It was like being plugged into the collective consciousness. And that's where, even though I am fairly spiritual, I believe in we're all energy. Yeah. And we're all interrelated. And in that moment, it was like I was plugged into the cosmic consciousness, in that all things are known, all things are felt immediately without processing at all. And that's where I believe that when you feel someone's presence, there's a reason. That's their energy. That doesn't go away. Our bodies are vessels, but that energy stays, and we're all connected by that energy.
Yeah. And in our physical state, it's hard to feel that sometimes in our day-to-day lives. We're not always tapped into that awareness that we are very interconnected more than we think. That's why even through meditation practices and whatnot, people can glimpse that experience you're talking about, where their consciousness expands beyond just their physical body. So you again, in an odd way, people search their whole lives for that experience, and the experience that you had is in no way desired, right? No one would want to intentionally go through that, but you did attain a great insight through this. Tell me a little bit more about what you found. In
losing my life, I found my life. It was at the exact moment I expired, I was saved. I learned about will. I have pride. I have pride in doing things well. I have pride in my family. I have pride in having friends. But before that, I was an ego-driven man. It was accomplishments. I needed to do it faster, better, louder, shock and awe. I somewhat came back after this experience, devoid of that ego. And I was so involved with me before, what I need, what I want, what I need to do. I control everything, which was a fallacy, to looking outward. And perhaps for the first time in my life, I started noticing people around me. I became one of those guys that used to irritate me, that you're in a line at the market and you start talking to the person next to you.
Right.
And the one thing I learned, other than there are miracles, I was supposed to be in the hospital for months. I was out within 3 weeks. They told me I wouldn't walk for 7 weeks. I was walking after 2 days. I had no pain medication after the initial dose they gave me when I was coming out of my coma. Literally, I became a test animal for 3 weeks. Doctors were coming in from other cities. A couple flew in from other states. After 2 studies, the last doctor used the words. He goes, "It's a miracle." He goes, "Sometimes there's no way of sugarcoating it. We have no explanation. There is no medical reason why you recovered." And that's when I really learned I did come back for a reason. It wasn't my time. I believe the universe or God, they want you to succeed. So they give you that chance. So I came back. And at that moment, I learned probably the most important thing in my life, that opportunities and success and relationships and love and all that, it comes flying by us 24/7. And we are so caught up in our own lives. We are so caught up in our version of how things are supposed to go that we just let them fly by. And in that moment, it was like all of a sudden your eyes opening. It was like seeing people like all around you that a second before weren't there, because I wasn't focused on that. And that's when opportunities started coming.
Yeah.
I met people. I started talking to strangers. They started talking to me. People would come up to me in a supermarket and literally, and would say things, it sort of freaked me out, but would say things like, "There's something different about you." I feel an energy. And for me, it was just that leaving myself. It was leaving myself to the side and plugging into what's all around us. And that's what led me to being an executive coach. A life coach is what I do now. I do some business consulting. I love doing high-tech consulting, but it's just unleashing what's inside of all of us, potentials inside all of us. The answers are there. What we need, why there are coaches and mentors in the world, is we need someone to give us the room, allow us to ask those questions, or to ask people questions that they know the answer to. But once they verbalize them and you hear yourself giving the answer, all of a sudden it becomes real. I could give people advice all day long, but it's my advice. Right. Once they come to that epiphany themselves, that's a habit and a realization that they'll take throughout their life.
I love that philosophy. One idea that I love sharing with people is that coaching or therapy, whatever your approach is, it's not to give people the answers to their problems. It's to, similar to what you're saying, provide the space for them to find it within themselves. And it's like a math equation. You're not trying to solve the equation for them. You're trying to help them find the right set of numbers, the right variable that fits in the equation to make it true. And then once they can find that themselves, everything changes within them. I've had experiences with people who have done that for me, and it's taught me how to do it for other people. For you, like you were saying, how we pick up on other people's energy, and we're a lot less separate than we think. So for someone coming to you in the supermarket, it's not a coincidence. They could probably feel that within you. You had that equation answered in a way through this experience. You faced the edge of life and death, and you found some answers, I'm sure, to many questions, existential, spiritual, and whatnot. And you can't not be changed by that. It changes your entire being, not just on a soul level, but on a physiological level. It permeates every cell in your body, coming back from that and living through that afterwards.
Yeah, it's a real sense that you control more than you think in life.
Yeah.
What I used to think of being happiness was things I acquired, bigger house, a vacation, things, or getting things that others don't have. And it was this silliness. And you have full control over your happiness. And it's that moment, what I carry with me now is what was very rare in the past, when you have that close person that believes in you. And you want to do something, you want to stretch beyond what you've done before. And that person goes, go for it. I believe in you. And that's what we all need. And that's sort of what I do as a life coach, is saying, you got it, do it. Society tells you why you can't do things, that you need to work 9 to 5 and you can't think and don't be creative. Just do what I say, do the process. And we have all this energy, all this knowledge inside of us. And once we sort of let go, and feel free to color outside the lines a little bit and believe in ourselves is the biggest thing. What you can accomplish is amazing. My definition of happiness, I wake up every day happy. I'm alive. Both feet hit the ground. They said I wouldn't walk. Within a month, I was starting to run. I learned that limitations are just that. You either absorb them, what you hear, and you accept that as reality, or you create your own reality, which is, I'm going to get better. This is what I'm going to do to get better. I'm not going to accept the limitations. There are limitations. I'm not pie in the sky. You have a broken leg. No, you don't go out and run. But once that leg is healed, some won't run again because they're afraid. Will my leg go?
Yeah.
And that's the mind over matter. That's the believing in yourself, believing that the universe has got your back, and opening your eyes to what's all around, the people you meet, the experiences that are there, the success that are there, the opportunities that are there. I used to fight so hard. I was very successful in life, but I fought 24/7 In the moment I stopped fighting, the moment I let go of ego and just accepted what was around me, things just started happening. And I almost felt foolish at that moment. It's like I went through my whole life thinking I had to somehow create something.
Yeah.
And it's just all there. It's literally just reach out and grab it. You know, you have a passion. That passion is put inside you for a reason. If you say, I want to be an artist, there's a reason why that's inside you. The only limitation is someone's telling you can't do it or your fear. And once you let go of that, there's joy, there's success. And so what? If you're not commercially successful, you're going to be doing something you love. That's sort of been the big shift. So yeah, I'm older than I used to be. But you know, I wake up happy every day. Everything's sort of an adventure. Things mean a lot less to me. Experiences mean a lot more. Mm-hmm. People I meet mean a lot more. Accepting that I don't have all the answers. I don't have to control. I don't have to create. It's there. I need to receive. And once you get into that position, you can't, in baseball, you can't catch a ball unless you're ready to catch it. You know, they can throw it. And if you don't put your glove up, it's going to fly right by you. And that's sort of what's happening. The universe provides what we need, you know. And if you believe in God, that God provides what you need. The universe nor God wants us to fail. Mm-hmm. There is no negative. There is no bitterness. There's no desire to punish us. The only people that are punishing us are ourselves and our egos. You know, anger in this world right now, especially. Everybody's angry at everybody. And that's man created. That's not God created. That's not the universe. That's man.
Yeah, this symbolic death and rebirth. For you, it was almost death. It was a death-like experience. For others, it's symbolic. It's the part of themselves that is addicted to that mindset of limitation, conformity, that needs to die in a way in order for something else to take root and take place. So whether it's through an experience like you had, or more on an emotional level where the person you thought you were, you have to let go of, you have to move past that in order to let something new grow. Only through that experience can you fully embody the new story that you're trying to tell about yourself and your life. And your environment will start changing around you rapidly once you do that. It's
sure.
It's so interesting just as an experiment to go and follow in your day-to-day life, to see what small changes within you produce in the environment around you. It's very empowering to see that when you live a life of surrender and radical acceptance, it feels more like you are a character moving through a story, a fairy tale, a fantasy story that in a positive way is you're telling the story of your life, versus when you try and control and you try and put everything in a box, right? You try and confine yourself to, well, this is who I am and this is what the world is like and this is who other people are. You've then shut yourself off from so much opportunity, the wonder of life. I'm sure for you, going to the grocery store can be an experience of wonder and curiosity, or it can be a dreadful experience where all you're thinking about is the negative things closed off to the people around you. In that circumstance, no one's going to come up to you and say such things.
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time anymore with dreadful experiences. Mm. Again, that's self-made. That dread comes from within. It doesn't come from without. Yeah. Sort of took me dying to learn how to live. It's those things on a daily basis where, and that's this whole society in anger right now. Someone cuts you off, you can think of it two ways. They're doing something to me. And I guarantee you that person cutting you off doesn't even know you're there. Mm-hmm. So that they haven't thought. There's no anger. There's no animus. And if for a moment you take that, well, maybe this person's kid's sick and they're rushing home to be with them. Maybe they're sick and they're rushing to the hospital. And there's a whole host of reasons. And I'm not saying it's good for people to cut people off. That's not my point. My point is the reaction we have to that is all on us. if you see someone that looks different than you, anger, prejudice, that's comes from within. That's fear. To me, prejudice is fear. It's the other side of fear.
Fear of other.
Yeah, I'm fearful of someone that's different from me. So I need somehow, like the porcupine, to put up my quills, and
that's harmful for the person doing it, because you are creating that
separation.
Yeah. You're not only saying that they are different, but you're saying that you are also separate from others.
Being Italian and being a lawyer, I for me, argument was sport. Mm-hmm. You took a position, I take the other position, just for sport. It just was habit, and letting go of that. And in my relationships now, just to think, and that's one thing that I really tell to the people I coach is take that second. That first reaction and probably the second reaction that comes up in your mind are the wrong reactions.
Yeah.
That third one is sort of after you've sort of absorbed it, you've sort of let your guard down, let your ego down a little bit. And that's the reaction, rather than striking back. Because usually if you think of those times, especially with a loved one, that they say something that you misinterpret or hit you wrong, and you lash back, thinking that lashing back somehow going to make you feel better. And I guarantee you, 99% of the time, it doesn't. You feel bad, they feel bad, and then it just festers. And most people don't know what to do at that point. So what do? They separate, and they get quiet, and they're down on themselves, or either that, or they're in their mind creating some hurt that's not there. And if you just take that moment, and put life in perspective, we're all here, we're all equal. We're all trying to do the same thing, is to make it from day to day. You just take a moment. Is it really, out of your way to hold the door open for someone, to not cut someone off, to let someone go in front of you? And those are moments. And that person that you help, that turns around and says thank you, could be your next opportunity. Could be that person you're meant to be with.
Yeah.
And that small act and that change in what you do is the difference. It's not just you giving, it's what you get back from the universe. That could be your next employer. That could be your next client. That could be the person you're going to spend the rest of your life. And that choice you make of how you react in that moment is either you being ready to receive, or you being so focused on yourself that you're blind to what's around you.
It's like a choose your own adventure. You could live a whole different reality if you are closed off, if you are like unavailable, unwilling to see the potential in front of you. But if you open up to that, there's limitless possibilities.
100%. I wouldn't be living here in Utah. If you asked me a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to pick out Utah on a map. I'm an East Coaster. So people that you were born on the East Coast. We on the East Coast know that there's a East Coast, a West Coast, and Texas and Florida, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff in between.
Oh, yeah.
But it brought me out here.
What did bring you out here?
Like everything, a good friend brought me out here in business. I do a lot of high tech advisory work. I love high tech, the energy, that moment in business with high tech companies, and not just high tech, startups in general, where you have nothing but success. We're gonna succeed. Everybody's pushing in the same direction. Money hasn't come into play yet, so everybody's playing nice in the sandbox. Everybody has this common cause they're working towards. There's joy, there's wonder. There's nothing but dreams people are chasing. I could stay in that atmosphere forever. I could work with startups nonstop because I just love that optimism and energy. And as soon as stockholders come in, as soon as disparity in pay starts happening, there are hurt feelings. There are people now not following their dreams because they have to answer to a stockholder. And the world changes. It's like all of a sudden seeing this child that's really happy grow up and be bitter, or not pursue what they really want to pursue in life. So, I gravitate towards positive energy. And most people have it inside them. I think most people I work with, they want to be heard. They want permission to step outside their comfort zone, and they want that permission to follow their heart, to follow their instincts rather than someone else's plan of how their life is supposed to go. Since you're in school, you're told rules from day one.
Right.
This is how you're supposed to do things. This is how the world operates. But that's someone else's version. And I'm not advocating for anarchy. I believe in law. I believe in being good to other people. But laws would be less important if people just looked into their heart more. If people weren't angry, if people weren't covetous of what other people have, if people weren't always trying to step on someone else to get above, there'd be less reason for laws. Those laws are there because people do bad things. And in reaction to that, we institute laws to regulate and prevent those things from happening. That we're constantly creating laws for man-made problems. It's not the weather. It's not God creating these things. We're creating these. We were given free will. We were given the right to think and to create. And what we create and how we create and how we treat other people, that's all on us. And the moment you start getting over yourself, that's when life changes.
Yeah. So I have a question. So we're in school our whole lives, and then we get to a point, especially in today's world, where we have the path of more school or working for a company that has a specific set of rules in place. So we can go from school rules to job rules, or we can create our own story. We can forge a new path. How do you as a coach empower someone who has this creative work within them that they're trying to birth into the world, express, but they've lived their whole life in these sets of rules and they're trying to create their own way?
Yeah, sometimes it's work. It really is getting people to forgive themselves for, we all messed up in the past. You can't go back. You can't change the past. Mm-hmm. Just acknowledge it, learn from it, forgive it, and put it away. But it's starting to respect yourself. You've worked really hard over your life. You've had all these experiences. You've gone to school. You've got all this knowledge. You have it. Acknowledge what you have. Mm-hmm. And that's the pitfall people fall into is, well, because I don't have a lot of money, that person with a lot of money obviously has the right answer. You don't know. It could have been luck.
Yeah. Could
have been inheritance. They could have won the lottery. We put value on the wrong things. We don't value so much creativity, free will, people sort of looking at the situation and being creative and creating solutions. We don't, corporations don't encourage that, or didn't. That is changing. There's a distinct difference now in very successful companies where leaders are starting to look, and a lot of the leaders that I work with, teaching them to admit, I don't have all the answers. And once you make your employees stakeholders, once they feel they have a piece of the process, that they're heard, that if the company does well, we're all going to do well, and that you have a direct voice in how this is going to go, it's amazing how people step up. You just need to give people that opportunity.
You're empowering them.
And that's really a lot of what you do with coaching, just giving people permission to dream and then to follow those dreams. And, a great exercise is, as we go, the question, why? I can't do this. Well, why? Well, because this, what? Why? And all of a sudden, after you get through the whys, they realize that there is no why. It's this feeling.
It becomes why not?
Yeah.
Right.
You have to work hard in life. There's things you need to do, but it's certainly not as hard as most people make it out to be. And you feel like you're disadvantaged. Find an advantage, and there's people out there. Once I find when most people are at their lowest point, they withdraw, and they feel they have this pity party.
Yeah,
and that's the moment more than any time that you need to open up, because there are people out there that are going to rally. There are opportunities out there, and you got to give yourself some grace. And that's a word that it took on a new meaning after my trauma, and my near-death experience was grace. I had to give myself grace. You're going to recover when you recover. You're going to get back when you get back. Am I going to be able to succeed again? Am I going to be able to regain the success? I've been out of it for 2 years recovering. I had this little voice inside of me, is the world going on without me? And it wasn't. The moment those moment that voice would come up, I just thought to give myself grace. Either the universe or God loved me enough to bring me back, to give me a choice. And my choice now is just not to waste it. Every day is a bonus. Every person I meet is an opportunity. So that's in everybody. That's a choice. And it's your choice to stop listening to the narrative.
Would you say that the work that you're doing now, coaching, advising, helping people find this piece of themselves that is capable of all things, do you believe that that's part of why God had you come back here to fulfill that mission?
Yeah, I think it goes back to also God wants us to get it right. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I was given the opportunity to okay, this is the third time, but I'm going to give you another chance. But yeah, it's being there, and I think because of my background, because I've accomplished a lot, and it's not ego. It's I was blessed. And a lot of it was luck. Yeah. A lot of it was opportunity. A lot of it was amazing people around me. But people just need that runway to tell them that go for it. That moment when I'm coaching someone that's all stressful, and when they realize that all those barriers aren't real barriers, they just sort of go away. In the moment they feel that, yeah, you can do this, you see that change in their body, that lightness that comes about, their shoulders sort of relax. And that's the moment they give themselves grace. It's like, yeah, there are no obstacles. These are man-made. These are other people's issues. You just be who you are. Be a good person. And if it aggravates someone, that's not your problem. Give them grace. There's a reason why they can't be happy.
Yeah.
And I do not condone in any way the anger and vitriol that's in this world. It makes me sad. It doesn't make me angry anymore. It makes me sad. Because those people are so similar to the people that they hate. There's more that connects us than divides us. And it's fear. It's fear. It's the voices in there that are around them. It's people working them out over nothing. And the moment we start just realizing that we're all in this together, amazing things happen. And that's part of the pleasure of coaching. It's sort of that, it's not psychology. It's a very different field. It's just that field of providing a safe zone and maybe some guardrails to help people find their own path, to create their own solutions, to find their own answers. And it's amazing. It's amazing when you see that light bulb moment.
Yeah. I mean, you say it's not psychology, but all psychology is, a psychotherapist is literally a doctor of the soul. And empowering someone to look within their soul, the light they have within them, that essence, and bring that out in the world. That to me is a doctor's work in a way. And I as someone who's looking to go into that field, and I'm learning more myself, I appreciate hearing about it from you, hearing about what you're doing, and I think it's very important work.
Yeah, it's been fun. When I after this, that I went through therapy. I'm a big believer.
Yeah.
Even before this, I lectured on depression for years, and being a family member and supporting people with depression. But again and again, my therapist would ask me, like, do you have anything that you regret, that you're angry about? And it was almost this game. And then finally, first he thought it was sort of me gaming the system. And I said, I woke up today.
Yeah.
And I start when I have, especially business people, but when I start with them and I see that aggravation, my first question always is what's something today that you're proud of? And you start them down this, let's work through 10 things. You got out of bed, that's 1. You made breakfast, that's 2. You showered, you got dressed, you made the bed. Okay. So life is okay. You're doing it. You're controlling. You got to work without an accident. You came home, you played with your kids. Those are all victories. We're taught that, victory is on your paycheck and your promotion. How about your family?
Right.
How about your health? How about your happiness? How about pride in those around you? Why somehow are those down the list? Why is what kind of car you drive more than how happy your kids are? And when you start to sort of reapportion in your brain, reshuffle those priorities, and you just, every morning, if you just sort of, when you feel that aggravation, just stop and say, well, what did I do right today?
Yeah.
I'm getting down on myself, but let's look at all the things I did right today. It sort of balances that off and takes that weight that's really self-imposed.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
So,
it's a different standard of success. There's the standard of success that you're talking about. Like, what kind of job do you have? How much are you making? What kind of car do you drive? And then there's the other standard. How are you living a happy life? So I come from a Jewish background and Jewish teachings, and one of the biggest values is, if you're going to do something, even if it's a good deed, you have to do it with happiness. You have to do it from a place of joy. Otherwise, what is it worth, right? You can be the most devout person in your religion. You can be the best worker at the office. You can be bringing in big bucks and providing for your family. But if you're not doing it all with joy, what is it really worth? So that's what I always come back to, in a world that does also measure success in the other way. And that's important. It's important to have those sorts of successes, but that's the other side of things. There has to be a balance in that way.
Yeah, it's funny that you had mentioned that. In most cities, the Italian, especially in the early days, the Italian and Jewish were in the same neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And it was this competition, I like to say, of who was better at guilt. And
it's fairly accurate.
It was like a competition, in a Jewish family, or it's like, you do this or this is going to happen. It was always this penalty.
Yeah.
And sort of that's, my journey, but which sort of took me out of the Catholic Church, which was for me a litany of do this or this is going to happen, or you're going to go to hell. Do that or you're going to go to hell. Do this or you're going to go into the bowels of hell. And it was always this trying not to get thrown into the fire. And when you sort of change that, this whole guilt and whining, it's again self-imposed, but yeah, the moment you just give grace, you start to take that pressure off. And I think maybe back then, the depression and what everybody went through, it was this, if you had this guilt, it was like you almost had survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
You're supposed to feel bad that you survived, that your lineage keeps on going, that you were the one. No, you're supposed to be grateful. Take that gift, be grateful and rejoice in it. Do not feel guilty.
Right.
And somehow that now there's this obligation. Your obligation is to take that opportunity and make the most of it, and to spread that and to share it. And very similar backgrounds, the Jewish and the family.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
You heard what your grandparents did. And, you're wasting your time. Your grandparents, walked uphill both ways with a hot potato in their hands and holes in their shoes. and you're, but they were grateful to come here to this country, as my grandparents were.
Yeah.
They could have taken that as a minus or a plus. They saw the opportunities, they built, they provided for their families. And I think that's what people nowadays are. We're so in the me and not in the we. It's no longer taking care of your neighborhood, your extended family, your friends. It's well, I got to take care of myself first. Well, we're interconnected. So if you let those around you fall, your life starts to denigrate. Who wants to be an island?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the human body, we look at our one organism, every bit of our body's working together in a symbiotic way. Our larger body, so to speak, is like the collective of humanity. Like how, when we do something kind for someone else, maybe it doesn't contribute to our direct, immediate needs, wants, and desires, but it is bettering humanity as a whole, right? You are a contributing member to the larger body of humanity. And that's rewarding in a different way. And it tends to come back and find you in return. Saying good karma is maybe a cliche, but there's fully a truth to that, where in service of others, we do find that good things are happening to us. Our needs are being fulfilled. Maybe not every want or desire, but we're taken care of. People don't feel that we are trying to take from them, that we want to give, and that people give in return. It's a very beautiful way of living life.
Oh, for sure. This interconnectedness, it's amazing. Once you plug in, and once you allow yourself, whether you've had an experience like mine or not, and sort of had that shock, you can plug in. You can plug into the world around you. You can plug into that energy. It's that choice of you either repel it, you walk away from it, or you sort of relve it. It's sort of like when you're at a concert, that moment where you sort of, dance like no one's watching. Yeah. You just hear the music with your body, and it just goes through you, and the joy, and you let yourself be happy. You said that you're thinking of going into medicine. And medicine, the training of doctors and lawyers are very different, very similar in one way. We're very technically good, but at the same time, you're somewhat taught to disengage from the patient and disengage from the client, because and the excuse was, well, if you don't, you're going to take on all this trauma and all this energy. But that's the job, that empathy.
Yeah.
And yes, there are going to be tragedies, but also there's going to be gratitude coming back. And if you allow yourself to receive that, that's gonna fill you back up. Everybody's afraid of what I'm going to lose. Well, if I see so much death or I see so much misfortune, it's going to take someone away. But when you help someone, that gratitude is filling you back.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, once you get out of that head and start embracing empathy, embracing, understanding that there are other people involved in this world, all of a sudden, what you thought you were going to lose is far outweighed by what you're receiving back. And it starts to overflow. And that's one thing. If I could go back in time, I would have slowed down. I would have taken more time. I would have gotten to know the people I helped a lot better. Do I feel good that I helped them? Yeah, but it was a case. But those were people. They had a life. And a lot of times they wanted to tell me about their life, but I was so focused on their case that I said, we'll talk about that later, and how much I missed.
It's interesting you say, if you could go back in time. So I guess right here, right now, if you could go back in time, what would you say to that version of yourself that was operating in that way as a lawyer out in the world, knowing what you know now, living the life that you're living now and how you're showing up? What would be the message?
I think number one would be get over yourself. That always worrying about what other people think. That just to get over myself and to just receive. I always had this thing that whatever I do in life, I have to create. And that's the opposite of what really I needed to do. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say a lot of my past life was luck. Because despite myself, I succeeded. It's just being there. If you just go and experience life, open yourself up, be aware, look around you. How many times do people walk every day and you don't look at the garden that's right next to your building, mm-hmm. or this amazing cafe that's across the street? You're just focused on going to the work every day. And you're so angry, I have to go to work. It becomes this bad experience. And you're not looking around you. You're not seeing what's all around us. And the moment you start opening up, that's what I would tell myself, is just start looking outward and stop looking inward all the time.
I think that's a good message for anyone listening to this. A lot of people that watch my podcast are young men in particular, looking to go out into the world and make something of themselves. And it's important to preserve that. It's refreshing for me to hear someone who's very involved in business, but takes a soul-centered approach. It's very easy to do the opposite. It's very easy to just chase the money, chase the success, but at what cost, right? And if you're not doing it, if you're not admiring the garden of life around you, the beauty of the people that you're serving in the process, really understanding that, yeah, you're making great success, but you're also helping people in the process. It's the most rewarding thing.
Yeah, it's living in the moment. Tomorrow might not come. My father's a perfect example. He worked incredibly hard, like mm-hmm. most people's parents did. And most people coming out of the Depression, they worked so hard. And there was always that someday. I'm going to work real hard, and then someday, when my family's taken care of, when everything's done, I want to go back to Europe and trace where I went during the war and see it. For him, someday never came. His health gave out. Mm-hmm. You have today. You live today. You work hard. You play hard. You plug into what's around you. You have plenty of time to sit in your bar lounge and watch TV. Those movies are still going to be there. You can stream them years from now. What you can't get back years from now is that energy to be able to walk the streets in Europe, to be able to walk around Florence, to be able to walk around London and Paris and wherever you want to go. It's you work hard and you do it. And stop. Yes, we have to be good. You have to have some savings in life. I'm not saying, but we all plan for the worst. Well, I have to get so much money in case I get sick. We're planning to get sick. Yeah. Or, well, if there's a disaster, I have to plan because if the house falls. So we're planning our life around our house falling down, our health going bad, somehow the country getting invaded. I mean, that's no way to live. If I got to live that way, I don't want to live.
Yeah.
I'll go back. I'll knock on the gates again and say, listen, it's bad things are going to happen. You do what you can. You be reasonable. I'm not advocating being completely crazy, but you can't go through life planning and creating this big insurance company about
right.
This big insurance policy against everything that could go wrong.
It seems like you're improving the East Coast mentality.
Yeah, you can tell I've been away from the East Coast for a while now,
you got the best parts of the West Coast. We slow down here to admire the garden. All right, man. James, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a really good conversation. I always end by saying that it's most important to me that one person took something away, something positive away from this conversation they can implement in their lives and change. Because if you change one person's life, it's as if you've changed the entire world. And so thank you for contributing to my mission and sharing your story.
Yeah. And if anybody, wants to reach out to me, they can reach out to me at the Kaizen Mastery Group. It's KAIZEN, KaizenMasteryGroup.com. I'm on there. They can reach out to me, or they can look me up at Mentore, MONTERA, Mentore Coaching. And that's what I do. I love talking to people, and love hearing their stories. So.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.